everyone, and welcome to Talks at Google. Today, we're here to welcome recipe developer, food stylist, and cookbook author Susan Spungen as she demonstrates 2 recipes from her latest book, Open Kitchen, Inspired Food for Casual Gatherings. Susan will also discuss food styling and photography tips, working on hit movies such as Eat, Pray, Love, and how people can adapt their holiday plans to get together over delicious food while social distancing. So without further ado, because we have 2 amazing demos, let's bring on Susan.
Hi, Ida.
Hi, Susan. Thank you again for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm coming to you from East Hampton, New York here, all the way across the country.
It's so nice to be able to see a glimpse of your amazing kitchen there. So
thanks.
So today you're going to be demoing 2 dishes from your cookbook, right?
Yes, I am. And they happen to be right next door to each other in the book, which I'm super happy about. One is the root vegetable tian right here, which, I'll tell you about that in a second. And the other is the caramelized fennel with citrus and olives. So you've made it really easy for me by keeping them on consecutive pages. But I should say that we chose these recipes partly because they're good plant-based recipes that, actually are easily made plant-based. I have so many vegetable recipes in my book, even though that's not really the theme. I eat a lot of vegetables, and actually I'm going to show you my table here, which is like full of produce and tons of squash and stuff from the farm that we belong to. We have a CSA near here that we pick vegetables. So yeah, that's the way I cook.
Well, great. Yeah, and they look like they're just, I don't know, perfect for this time of year. Absolutely. And perhaps for our holiday tables that are coming up.
Yes, absolutely. The tian especially makes a great side dish for any holiday gathering, whether it's your immediate family or whatever. I'm going to have a small outdoor gathering, I think, for Thanksgiving Day. But this dish also makes a really great vegetarian main course.
Wonderful. Well, how are you going to be doing that outdoor gathering?
Well, I'm hoping for the best with the weather, but I'm calling it for lunchtime, like 1:30. And I'm just, hoping it won't be too cold because we're here in New York, and I'm going to make a rain day for Friday. And I'm just inviting really 2 other couples who are also neighbors who we've socialized a little bit with over the summer and who we feel comfortable bubbling with. And, just because, I don't know, I can't not celebrate Thanksgiving. I'm going to cook a turkey outside on my Traeger grill. Makes great turkey, and I'm going to have everybody bring something, and that's what we're going to do.
Well, wonderful. Well, let's get started on this dish, and I'll ask a few questions about your new book,
Sure.
Open Kitchen. The one question I have is, how did you come with this name?
Oh, well, it's partly inspired by this kitchen. You see how it's a very open kitchen, and a lot of people have an open kitchen, but I like the double entendre of open kitchen because it's about also welcoming people into your home, but it's also about the way that you might have to adjust your cooking a little when you actually have a kitchen like this, because everyone can see what you're doing. So you have to be a little more prepared, and it's not like the old-fashioned kitchen where you could close the door and you'd entertain your guests in another room. It's like, this is where the party happens. So you better kind of look like you know what you're doing, right? So my book is full of sort of what I call get-ahead tips that will help you organize yourself in the kitchen better, so that it's actually makes it more fun and more enjoyable to actually be the cook when you do that. So like even for today, I had to get everything kind of prepped in advance a little bit so I'd be ready for you. So you're my guest today.
Oh, thank you for inviting me into your home. Also, the get ahead makes it possible for the hostess or the host to be part of the party, right? Not just
Absolutely. Absolutely. And not to have a sink full of dishes when you're friends come over, or it's time to eat, I like to have things. I'm a clean as you go kind of person. So when you've done kind of the heavy lifting ahead of time, you can clean up and you're ready to eat. So that's the way I like to do it. Now, I know not everybody is organized that way, but all of the recipes can be made straight through as well. So
wonderful. Well, why don't we get started on some of them?
Yeah. So I did a few things in advance because I did think you were going to want to watch me do some more tedious jobs. So I've made this chickpea puree, which, to be honest, you could use any bean, especially white beans, though. So I actually made one that I'm not going to show you yet ahead of time so that we can get right to it. And that one actually didn't have 2 cans of garbanzo beans in my pantry. I thought I did. So I had a can of butter beans, so I used those. So basically, you're just taking the beans straight out of the can and putting them in a food processor with a little bit of enough of the liquid to make it like this texture, spreadable. And if you don't have a food processor or you're too lazy to wash it, you could just put them in a bowl with a fork and mash them up. The idea The idea is just to not only add a little bit of protein to this dish, which I like as a main course, but you'll see how it gives me when I'm trying to arrange the vegetables, it makes it a lot easier because they kind of stand up in this puree here. So I am going to show you how I slice things on this mandolin. Oh gosh, I left my little safety glove out in the sun. Can I run out and get it? I was trying to do it.
And I'll kind of give a little bit more of history of who Susan is, because she's not just, she's written 3 cookbooks. Let's see, they are A Collection for Modern Cook, What's a Hostess to Do, and Strawberries. And she's also the co-author of the Martha Stewart hors d'oeuvre cookbook, which garnered a lot of attention. Movies that she's done was not just Eat, Pray, Love, but also It's Confidential. And
No, It's Complicated.
Oh, It's Complicated.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I mean, all I remember about that movie was the amazing croque monsieur that came out of the oven by Meryl Streep. And Julia and Julia, which was a venerable food movie, right? So in many ways, you've been part of the 3 top food movies. And
well, there's a lot, but yes, 3 really great ones. I would agree. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
There's so much more, actually. I don't know how
There is. Hopefully we'll get to that. But I'm going to start on this, and then you can kind of come in and out with questions anytime you want. So do you see this kind of weird glove I have on? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you're ever going to use a mandolin, now I love using a mandolin, and this recipe almost kind of requires it because you have to get the vegetables paper thin. But a lot of people, amateurs and professionals, can cut themselves quite easily on this little gadget. So I use mine all the time, but my life was changed when I got this glove, which costs like, I don't know, $5 on, you can order it anywhere online.
Right. And I believe it's called a cut glove.
Yeah, and people use it also if you want to open oysters or something like that. It really protects you from any like little stabs or cuts. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to people's house for a party and they've got a big bandage on their finger. And I was like, what happened? And like, oh, I used my mandolin. So, it's very easy.
It's a wise investment.
A wise investment. In fact, they should sell them together. So I'm just going to show you how it works because this one has a little bit of an adjustment on it. And depending on you're trying to get like this, these are kind of fibrous. These are parsnip. Depending on the vegetable that you're doing, you might need to change the blade thickness because these are really kind of tough and fibrous. So it makes it a little bit harder. But the idea is that you've got a bunch of different vegetables that are roughly the same diameter. So I have everything I need right here. Where's my knife? Come on. Okay, here it is.
Do you have any tricks on making sure that they are roughly that same diameter?
Well, just when you're shopping, like look for the skinny sweet potatoes, like not the big fat ones. Just look at everything and pick things that are roughly the same diameter. So actually, all of these vegetables sort of are, but as we know, sometimes the sweet potatoes would be huge, or the beets could be huge. So you want to pick ones that, I mean, as you can see, these are roughly the same.
Mm-hmm.
And the parsnip always has a big, thick part. So see, those are the hardest to cut. These are a little bit easier. I've already done some of this in advance, but I just wanted to show you.
Well, if you don't have a mandolin, make sure you get that cut glove as well for safety reasons. And they are really fun tool to have in the kitchen, even in the summer, right? For making a salad.
I use mine all the time, and it's actually everything can be so beautiful. There's also a shaved vegetable salad in the book that also relies on a mandolin, and I love shaved fennel salad. Who hasn't had a great shaved fennel salad in a restaurant? And you can't really do that without the mandolin. That's how you do it. You shave it super thin. So I strongly encourage you to spend, I don't know, it's like $20 for this one. So this one's Kyocera, which I love. So that's what you got to do. All right, so I'm just going to try to show you. I'm going to show you over here. I've already done more of the vegetables in advance. Now I've got beets and sweet potatoes. Wait, maybe you can't see everything. Beets, beets, sweet potatoes, and parsnip. But you could change it up if you have other root vegetables that you want to use. If you wanted to have potatoes, or you could use fennel in this as well. And this tian, it's a South, like a recipe that's traditionally from the south of France. Traditionally, it's a summer recipe that has eggplant, tomato, zucchini. And that's good, delicious. But I wanted to make a sort of more autumnal version of this dish. So that's what we have here. So basically, you're going to pick up a few of each vegetable, a few slices of each, because it's not necessary to kind of layer one at a time. That would be like kind of ridiculous. So we're going to pick up a little bit of everything, including the red onion, which I also sliced on the mandolin. And then we're just going to start sort of shingling them. Now you'll see I did the other one in a round dish, but I only had one round dish. So now I'm going to do this one. Can you see what I'm doing? Yeah.
I mean, playing cards actually would really help with the practice with this.
It is. It's kind of like dealing cards or playing cards. Yeah.
So you could also probably do this dish as individual dishes.
You could, yes. If you have individual baking dishes, it actually doesn't take any longer to arrange them in individual dish than it does in this dish. So, and that's a really beautiful, fun thing to do if you want to get a little bit fancy, right?
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned that this is actually based off of a summer dish, the tian. Could we use the same recipe and put the beans on the bottom and use the same vegetables?
Oh, you mean the summer vegetables?
Yeah. So if we don't have a recipe for it.
Well, you know what? You could find a million recipes online for the traditional tian, because the timing might be a little different. This one might cook longer and covered, because you'll see we have to cook this one covered, because otherwise these vegetables probably would never soften up enough. So they need to steam for the first like 35 minutes. So the timing would just be a little off. But the sort of bean layer is kind of my innovation, and you could add that to the traditional tomato one, or I was going to say baba ganoush, but I don't think that would work as well. But any kind of puree, because the thing is, you see how it's holding the vegetables in place.
Yeah, it's anchoring it so that it doesn't fall down as you're shingling.
Exactly.
It's already just beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm going to show you the finished one in a minute. What did I do first? Do them in the same order if you can remember each time. Yeah, go on.
You actually were, you went to school as an artist, right?
I did. I studied fine arts when I was, college age. Mm-hmm. And I actually didn't finish school. So I kind of want to write a book someday that's the college dropout's guide to life, because me and many other successful people did not finish college, and God only knows what's going to happen now, right? With all the poor kids that are in school right now. And Yeah, I wanted to be an artist. I really did. But because of some other things going on in my life, I just decided that I didn't want to finish school. And then I sort of slowly but surely drifted towards food as a career. I had always worked in restaurants, even when I was in school, and even I took a sort of accidental gap year. Do you know what that is?
Yes, I wish I took an accidental a gap year.
That's when you. Well, for me, it was because I didn't finish my college application.
Oh, okay.
That's an accidental gap year. So they didn't have a name for it then. It was just like, I mean, it's amazing I got as far as I did in my life, because I really was not a very motivated young person, I got to tell you. So it's a miracle, really.
Well, I mean, it didn't stop your talent from showing through and bringing you to some amazing opportunities. One of them was that you were the food editor for Martha Stewart Living from like its founding in 91 to 2003. And is that part of the reason why you got into the movies? Because you've done so much. You've food styling.
No, it was totally accidental, to be honest. Once again, my life is just full of accidents. So no, I think I was always very interested in translating food to various visual forms. So it wasn't really something I pursued, but it was something I was interested in for sure. I just never really thought about it that much. I mean, I loved movies I had seen up until then, like Babette's Feast or Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, these movies, that beautiful food movies that I was familiar with, or Tampopo. Those are some of the best ones I can think of off the top of my head. And I loved them. So I loved, there was actually even a scene in the movie Fried Green Tomatoes that I was just like, it was just some pies on a table. And I was like, wow, they look so amazing. I really was like taken with them, but I never really thought about, oh, well, how could I get into like doing this? So I, it really just happened accidentally. Nora Ephron called me and asked me if I wanted to work on her movie. And what do you think I said?
Yeah, there's.
I said, is this really Nora Ephron? That's what I said. Because she actually called me herself.
Wow, that's amazing. And that was for which movie?
Julie and Julia, which was the first one that I did.
Right. And what was that like? Because Stanley Tucci was also in The Big Night, right?
Oh, yeah, which is also another great food movie, obviously. Yeah. So, yeah, what was that like? Well, Stanley was great. He didn't actually have a lot of food or a few eating scenes, not too many food scenes. He wasn't really hands-on. He only ate. And all right, look at that. We've got our outer ring done. You see that? This is the perfect thing to do while you're talking to someone.
Well, I mean, your artistic background really comes out here. And for all of you who have not yet seen the book, it is just a visually stunning book. The photos are so inspiring. Like, you just want to cook everything. And
thank you. We eat with our eyes, right? We eat with our eyes. Yeah. And I really, for me, it's a really important part of what I do. Is like when I develop a recipe and I think about a recipe that I want to create, the visual, it's sort of hand in hand. I'm not just thinking about, how it's going to taste. Although that's as important. I don't go for visuals over taste, but they just go hand in hand for me. So color is super important. Like, this is a perfect example right here.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny because when you look at this and all of the cuts, when you look at the dish, it looks like it would take forever to make, but it really
it
goes quite quickly, right? It's the preparation, like you said, the ahead, the cooking ahead. But once you get this done, can you now take it at this point and just put it in the refrigerator?
That is the great thing. Now, all these extra scraps, by the way, I'm going to make a soup out of them, which will be great. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you can. I'm sorry, what did you just ask me? Say it
I
again.
was just wondering, do you hold this dish at this point in time, or do you cook it?
I could. Yep. And that is in the book, in my timing tips. Up to 1 day ahead, the tian can be assembled or completed completely ahead of time. Reheat if desired. Either way, this one actually reheats pretty well. But if you were doing this for a party or a dinner or something, you would just take this right as it is and just cover it, put it in your fridge, and it'll be fine. If you did something with raw potatoes, you might not be able to do that because the potatoes would turn brown. But the beauty of these vegetables is they don't turn brown. And everything's very dry. It's not going to get wet or anything. So it's perfectly great thing to do ahead of time. And then you can just pop it in the oven. And let me tell you, it smells so good when it's cooking. So you have that, when your guests are coming over. Well, someday when we have guests again, but
we'll get back to that. Yes.
Yeah, we want people to smell the food when they come in, or I do anyway. So now all we have to do, and if you were doing this ahead, I would wait to do this part. We're going to put olive oil.
Now, do you want an extra virgin olive oil or?
Yeah, for this you do, because you want that good flavor of the extra virgin olive oil. Now you can, if you don't mind getting your hands dirty, because I think in the recipe I say to use a brush, and that's because you really want to get the oil all over everything. But if you don't like getting your hands dirty, then use a brush. I mean, if you do mind.
Right.
I don't mind. I wash my hands, unfortunately, like so many times every day. So then we're going to season it with salt and pepper.
Do you want to be generous with the seasoning, or?
Yeah, pretty generous, because there's nothing in there yet. So, I mean, you don't want to go crazy. Did you see how much? I think the recipe tells you how much. Yeah, the recipe says a teaspoon of salt. So that's pretty generous, but it serves 6 to 8. But honestly, the vegetables have such nice flavor that you don't have to, if you don't like to eat a lot of salt, you could hold back a little bit. And then we have some garlic that I already did, because I knew you didn't want to watch me chop a bunch of garlic. That would be annoying. And again, totally optional if you don't want to use garlic, but it really gives it a lot of flavor. And then it kind of toasts on top, so it's not like super garlicky.
So it kind of sweetens up and caramelizes. That sounds amazing.
Oh yeah, it does. And then I have Parmesan, and it's mixed with some fresh thyme that I got just in my garden. Hasn't been cold here yet, so. And my time will last like most of the winter, if not all of the winter here.
Yeah, well, we have realized that a lot of people now have gardens and windowsill gardens, so that's wonderful.
I know, definitely more and more people are planting things, just like they did in World War II, right?
Victory gardens, yes.
Yeah.
So
sorry, I stepped out for a second. Go ahead.
No problem. I was just wondering that, your career has been a lot about styling of food and taking the photographs. Do you have any tips for all of us who are taking more pictures?
Oh yeah.
And the Instagram?
I do. I mean, for me, it really depends on the look that you like, but I mean, if you're home and you're taking pictures, which is probably what we're doing, right? You need to go around your house and find the best light. Like, don't just assume it's wherever you put down your plate. I mean, if you're lucky, you have great light there. But like, I know the couple of spots, and it depends on the time of day, that are nice light here in my house. And also I have a couple of surfaces that I use, and these don't have to be, something you buy. There are places to buy surfaces online, but you might just have a really great table or a nice piece of linen, or I have this old, beautiful tray that is big enough to use as a surface, and everything looks great on it. That's like my sort of dark and moody surface. I'm going to show you. I'm going to go get over. Hold on.
A dark and moody surface. That's a great description.
So some things you want dark and moody, and other things you want bright and light. So this is like this old tray. Can you see it?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's really beautiful. It's like, I don't know what it is. It's like bronze or something, but it's just a beautiful surface, and it has some like variations in the surface, and it also, see how it reflects light really beautifully.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of texture and warmth.
Yeah, yeah. So you want to look for things like that. Or if you have marble counters, those are great. If you have stone, any kind of stone counters, those are great, but it depends on the light. Like I have beautiful stone counters, but I don't really like the light so much in this room because I have windows all around, which is amazing, and I have skylights. So the light is kind of very too even, and it's better if you have directional light, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So I like this back bedroom that has like, it's very dark and then it has a lot of light from the window. That is usually the most dramatic.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
And then if you don't get a good shot, don't forget there's all kinds of ways you can manipulate the photograph afterwards. But you know, I don't do as much. I only do some little tweaks, and I try to get it in camera as much as possible.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Is that a good start?
That's a great start. I have a lot more questions, but I think if you could just tell us about like what temperature to put the can in and how long.
Let me get my baking machine. It probably won't spill over, but just in case it does, it's always a good idea when you're having a baking something like this to put it on top of a baking sheet. So I've tightly put foil on it because you want it to steam. This is not a just lay some foil on top.
So you're sealing the edges.
Yeah, you really want to seal it. So the oven's already heated to 375, which is, 375 is a great temperature when you want something to cook kind of slowly, but you still want a little bit of browning. 350, you're not going to get any of that. 400 is too hot. So this is, your universal sort of hot baking temperature. So I'm going to put this in the oven for 25 minutes, and then I'm going to take off the foil and cook it another, I think 25 to 30 after that. So
at the same temperature.
Yes, at the same temperature. All you have to do is just take off the foil. So I'm going to put this one in, okay?
Well, that's so nice to know that you don't have to go in and remember to change the temperature.
No. I wouldn't do that to you. And here's the one that I baked just before we started.
Oh, that's lovely.
That's it. I should have mentioned that you don't need to use the cheese, of course, if you are a completely plant-based eater. You can just leave that off, or you could put some panko breadcrumbs, some crunchy breadcrumbs, just moisten them with a little bit of oil in a bowl, and then sprinkle those on just so that you have a little something on top to give it a little
texture.
Flavor. Yeah, or you could even use like ground walnuts, or there's all kinds of things you could put instead of cheese. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's so nice to have those kinds of substitutions, to know them. Are those also listed? I noticed that in your famous kale salad recipe, you offered a lot of variations. I think you had started like a kale salad for the generations with that recipe.
That recipe, which ran on Epicurious in, I think, 2013, as a Thanksgiving side dish suggestion. It's really it's one of the most popular recipes on the Epicurious site, and people just go crazy for it, and which is great. I love kale salad. I actually don't really like kale cooked that much. I only like it raw. I don't know. I kind of I don't know. There's something about the texture of it cooked that I don't love. So I'm a big kale massager. Yeah. We had kale salad with our dinner last night, which was great. So this smells amazing. And this is a pie dish, which is perfect for this. Like if you have a deep dish, ceramic pie dish, it's kind of the perfect vessel. But as you saw, I did one in like an oval gratin, and that works fine too.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Do you want me to taste it on camera?
Yeah. I love it when people taste their own food.
I'm just going to stick a fork in it because,
Yeah.
I may have, what?
Everything's, you want to cook it so it's nice and soft.
Right.
And you want to make sure that you get some of that lovely puree, right?
It's so good. Well, when you're serving it, I'll show you. after each serving, you can scoop down into the bottom and make sure each person is getting a little bit of what's underneath.
I love how the beets bleed into it and just give everything that kind of earthy color.
Yeah, and you almost don't know the chickpea layer is there, but oh, it's really good.
Okay, that's coming on to.
And I haven't had lunch yet. I haven't had lunch yet, so. Actually, when I was developing this recipe, I had some friends over that weekend, and I remember I served it for lunch at room temperature, and it was really good. So
that is really a great suggestion, because sometimes when you're entertaining, you only have one oven, you have one stove, etc., and that real estate is hard to come by.
Yeah, this will stay warm though for quite a while. Like just if you have it in a nice heavy dish and cover it with foil, it'll stay warm for a while. So
that's great. And also in the back of your book, you had mentioned like certain menus and how to pick those and to consider all of that equipment real estate that you have. So just a note, if you get the book, definitely go into the back. There's some great menus already created, but then Susan's created the book to actually address different parts of entertaining.
Yeah.
And to just pick it through. It's kind of like flashcards, like you just.
Right. And I know that, maybe the concept, unfortunately, my book came out March 3rd. As you know, I was supposed to be there in the second or third week of March, and I didn't come. So lots of people, even though the recipes were supposed to be geared towards entertaining, many people have been cooking during lockdown from my book and enjoying it a lot. So that made me so happy.
That's great. Well, that brings us to one of our story questions. And it's since we've been in quarantine, what has been your favorite quick go-to meal to make?
Oh, gosh. I have so many. I make a lot of soups. My husband and I make a lot of soups. Sometimes we take our leftovers and make soups out of them. Or sometimes I meal prep and make a couple of soups, and then sometimes we even combine them. And I also usually make I meal prep, so it's kind of hard to, it's not always that. If a really quick one would be a turkey burger, honestly.
Oh, that sounds good.
Sometimes we enjoy just having like a burger dinner, and we get out all of the condiments, and we have lettuce and tomato. I call it burger deluxe. So that's fun too. But I like making soup with meatballs, or even sometimes we put frozen dumplings in our soup, which is really good. So.
Yeah, that's the very Korean, where they have the mandu inside of their tofu soups, right?
Yeah.
Or wonton.
Yeah. I mean, really, dumplings are great in anything that has some broth. So that's been a fun thing, because when we go into the city, which we don't that often, we stop at H Mart, which is the Korean grocery store, and we stock up on frozen dumplings and noodles and things like that.
So that's a good tip for everybody in quarantine. You can have soup with dumplings and noodles, and that's a fun meal. Yeah.
Right. And actually, one time we have a local seafood store, and they did curbside I think they're still doing it, but so you never even had to go inside. And one night we just had shrimp, whole shrimp cocktail, cooked shrimp. I just picked up cooked shrimp, and we had dumplings and maybe one other vegetable component, and that was a great dinner too. I recorded all of my dinners in my phone. So
do you have an Instagram where we can all go and get inspiration?
Absolutely. It's my name, Susan Spungen. So Susan Spungen, and please follow me. I think you'll have fun.
Yeah, I think that'll be great, just for if you need any quarantine meal inspiration.
Yeah.
So you have another dish for us to see, right?
Yes, I do. And this one involves fennel. I'm going to use this bigger one. This is what I would call a big bulb of fennel. So this one is, because sometimes they're really small. That's the trouble when you're a cookbook author. This is the second dish. Caramelized fennel with citrus and olives. You see, this is my personal copy. It's full of tabs, and it's like my working copy. I've done so many, I've done a lot of Instagram lives and various other things.
Well, I know I pulled out about 25 sticky notes before I put the book behind me because I didn't think it would look nice. So,
so this one we're cutting the fennel. I've already trimmed it again to spare you watching me do prep. So fennel always has this core. It's a little bit bright in here, so
okay.
You see it?
Yeah, right there.
So it has that core. So you want to like kind of keep as much of that intact as you can, because in this recipe it's going to hold together the wedges. And if they fall apart a little, it's not really a problem. Just for fun, I'm going to probably put that into my my soup that I've got going. I'm going to make a soup with all the scraps. So basically the recipe says 1-inch wedges, and you're thinking, well, it's a wedge, so how do I measure it? It's like at the back. When someone tells you a 1-inch wedge, it's the width of the sort of back of the wedge that you want to go with.
The widest part.
Yeah, the widest part. And it's important to cut things the way a recipe says if you want to depend on the times given in the recipe. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if you cut them much thicker, they might take longer. People sometimes don't realize how important that is, how important the cut affects
the end product.
That was a little knife tip that I just gave you. Did you see how so I didn't slip? I sort of rock my knife in very gently, and then I can push down. But sometimes people, if you are cutting like squash or something, it's so hard to cut. Just be very kind of get that knife in there securely, and then you can push down.
Oh,
all right, we've got
a great safety tip. Thank you.
It is. I know. I'm all about safety. So we're going to have. Let me see if I can move my camera over. Sorry, to the stove a little bit. Oh, okay. All right. So it's a sort of a funny angle, but you can see it a little bit, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to turn on the burner. I've got a big pan there, and I'm doing it over like medium high. You want to kind of get some heat going there, and we're going to use 2 tablespoons of butter. I mostly cook with olive oil for the most part, but I'm sort of a healthy cook, but I do indulge as well. So, but for this recipe, because you want to get this sort of caramelization going, you want to use butter. You could use olive oil, it would still be good, but I'm using butter, 2 tablespoons, which I don't need to measure. Oh, actually it was supposed to be 1 tablespoon. Oh no, 2 tablespoons of butter, 1 tablespoon of honey. So we're gonna melt that, and I'm using this beautiful honey.
Now, did that come out of a local area?
This was not local. This was one that a company called Natura sent me. They have beautiful products from all over. And this is raw, single origin forest honey. I don't know where it's from. Ethiopia.
Oh, Ethiopia? Wow.
Yeah.
That's definitely not local.
No. But the cool thing about honey is that it kind of keeps forever. And you can collect honey like when you travel, because at least you could imagine that it has some of the terroir of the place, right? That's
a great tip for traveling and remembering a specific place of your travel.
It lasts for years. Honey doesn't go bad ever.
Great. I have another question out here. What inspired you to get into cooking?
Oh, well, I always loved it, to be honest. Like even from the time I was really young, I loved to bake and be in the kitchen. And still, this is it's totally my happy place. And it honestly was very natural. For me, it wasn't and then also a natural extension of art. I like to create things, right? I'm a creative person. So it's just applying those sort of same skills and same loves to food as I did for art. So it just became my art form, really. So that's what inspired me.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I hope that's a good answer.
There's no bad answer.
So you see how this is sizzling now. We're going to put the fennel in, and we're going to get it to all fit. It should fit if you have the right size bulb, and it's okay if it's crowded. Yeah, that's perfect. And I'm going to salt it. And I'm going to cook it. We can keep talking because this is remember I said it was the perfect kind of recipe for talking in between. And here I am. I'm going to cook it for like 6 to 8 minutes. So, and then I'm going to cook it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, in the meantime, I'm going to show you how to do the orange, but keep going.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the tricks of making a perfect supreme is actually always worth sharing with people.
Yeah. I'm glad you know the name. I actually have a favorite knife in my apartment in the city that's like a steak knife. It's kind of like this one. It's like a serrated, like an old fashioned, like serrated steak knife. That's like my favorite one to use, but I'm going to use this one. Actually, sometimes I use more than one knife to do this. So the first thing is to cut the top and bottom. These are cara oranges, which I managed to find. They're not really in season yet. These are from Chile.
So cara, what makes those different than a regular?
Well, they're actually a cross between pink grapefruit and I think a navel orange. And so they have this beautiful pink color.
They are beautiful, much darker than a regular orange.
And a little bit of that slight bitterness that grapefruit has. It's just a different flavor, but also, again, it's color that I am going for here. So I think about color a lot when I cook.
What about texture? Do you think about the?
Oh yeah, of course, always. That's why you want a little crunch in whatever you're making, or I always think about textures. In fact, last night my salad was a study in textures, my kale salad. I put everything in there. I like to have a lot of different flavors popping. Like it wasn't my usual, I don't even think I have this variation in my kale salad recipe. I had, let's see, kale, purple daikon, shaved real thin on the mandolin, feta. It kind of went Greek. I had one beautiful heirloom tomato left over from a few weeks ago. I think they're out of season now. Feta, tomato, radish, Kalamata olives, pomegranate seeds.
Oh, wow.
It was really good.
That's definitely a cacophony of textures there.
Always go for a cacophony when you're doing a salad. Okay, so now we've got this is called supreming. And this is why I like a small knife here. I mean, you could use a big knife, but you're cutting in between the membranes. You see that? Mm-hmm. And always do it over a bowl. And why? Why do we do it over a bowl? Because we're going to catch any extra juice that's, we want it, because actually we're going to use this juice in the recipe. And it's just a waste to have it all over the cutting board. I mean, all over the cutting board. You want to capture it.
And a mess.
Right? Yeah, just for messy reasons. So you just want to go as close as you can to that membrane. So the idea is to get the beautiful pieces of citrus without really any of the membrane getting in the way.
And you can do this with any citrus, correct?
Any citrus. I mean, it's harder with you can't really do it with say a clementine because that's designed to be sectioned in a different way. I mean, designed, I should say. But it really is. It's like when they grow it, that's meant to be eaten in a different way. But other than that, yes, any kind of grapefruit, even lemons and limes, if you want to put a little bit of, fresh lemon. All right, I have to check my thing here.
So while you're doing that, are there any particular citruses that don't go well on this dish? Not
really. I'd say you can use absolutely anything. I mean, fennel and orange is a very classic combination. Mm-hmm. So do you see how much color I have on my fennel?
It's beautiful. Now, is that from the fennel itself or the butter or the honey?
Well, the butter, everything. The butter and the honey and the heat level. Okay. But you don't want to burn it. That's why I just stopped, because that's gorgeous. You want this amount of color, but you don't want to this is perfect.
So you were busy supreming the orange, and then you said, "Oh, I've got to check that fennel." So how did you know? Was it smell? Was it hearing? What's your trick?
Well, I did see it, but it is also smell. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've caught things burning in the oven because it's a sixth sense for me. I've been doing this for so long that, part of it is just a feeling, just my instinct. But I think I smelled it first, and then I looked over and I saw that it was getting a little bit dark. So I just threw down my supreme. And don't forget, when someone like me is doing this on camera, I've got one more thing to think about, right?
Right. And my throwing questions at you.
Yeah, which is fine. But so, okay, so you can still see this. Okay. So once you get down to this part, you're going to squeeze all the juice out of it. We don't want to waste any of it.
Wonderful.
And then it's just really dry, and then it can just go in the compost heap.
Great. And then you use the juice in the recipe. So you're not wasting anything.
Yeah. Not wasting any of it.
You were saying that this is a natural combination, and I've had some raw versions of this. So outside of cooking and braising your fennel, could we do the same thing with I believe you had olives and parmesan. Could this become a cold dish with the fancy mandolin?
Yes, absolutely. You could make a fennel and orange salad instead of braising the fennel, and you could make a dressing with the extra orange juice and an olive oil, and you could also maybe add a little bit of lemon juice because it might not be quite acidic enough with just orange juice, and so I would add perhaps a little lemon just to kick up the acidity. But you could, it's totally classic combination, usually with red onions as well, which is, I guess, what really did inspire this dish. So, all right. So this is my second orange. In the recipe, it uses blood oranges, but they are not in season yet. So
okay, great. Well, while you're doing that, I have a question about your work with movies. I mean, that's really fascinating.
Yeah.
And I was reading at one point where you said why this is different, because you not only know how to make a cake, but you know how to make 50 cakes that all look the same.
Yes.
And what is it like? Because, when I make one cake, I feel very accomplished.
Right.
And what does it feel like to make 50 cakes and then to see all 50 cakes be cut over and over and over again?
Well, I actually haven't done 50 cakes, but I have done at least that many pies and that many roast chickens. Both of those were for It's Complicated with Meryl Streep for her character. And, because you only have to make, say, 50 if you have a scene where they're cutting into the cake or cutting off a chicken leg, as it was in the case of It's Complicated. But, you basically have to come up with a prototype that works, that you then know you can, keep replicating. So that's really what it comes down to is, usually you have to, when you're working on a film set, you have to get approval. So you have to say, here's a prototype of the pie, usually, not always. All right, wait, I have to go to this for 1 second. Do you see how the fennel is getting nice and soft?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And the color is just lovely.
Yeah. So that's what we want. And then we're going to add a cup of stock. And this could be vegetable stock or chicken stock or whatever you have. And this is going to make the fennel go all the way to very soft. And we're going to add any citrus juice that we have. Now, that might seem like a lot, but we're going to kind of, we're basically braising the fennel. This is braising. So it doesn't say braising in the recipe, but that's what it is. And it makes fennel take on a completely different character than when it's raw. It's soft and unctuous, and it has like a very different flavor than raw fennel. So I recommend trying it.
Has a very anisey sort of flavor. Does that tone down when you cook it?
It does. It goes a little bit more into the background, and you taste other things first. So,
And does it get
dish.
Cabbage gets really sweet when it cooks? Does fennel?
It does. It is naturally sweet, but it does bring out the sweetness. So yes, it becomes sweet, and that anise flavor is less pronounced for sure. Sorry, excuse me.
And I have a question about styling. What are the trends? Like you see trends come through. What are the trends now, and what do you foresee in the future?
Well, the trends for quite a while now, for one thing, is shooting straight overhead. as you've noticed, most of the pictures in my book are. I mean, when I first started, there was a lot of like deep 3/4 angles that we would shoot at, because sometimes it was more about an environment and a scene and less focus on the food itself. Nowadays, we shoot really, really sort of tight and top down like this. Mm-hmm. So that is one of the trends in just food photography. But as far as styling, I think, you know, what's mostly in style is still a very kind of natural look, where, like, again, in this photo, something, it's not like a complete dish. You see, I've already spooned some out, and you look like you're really like there, you're really in the moment. So I think making things look that way, where it just looks so natural, like it just floated down from heaven and landed on the plate, is I think very much in style still. But there's also another trend of things being very kind of almost tightly controlled and crazy, like neon colors and not so real. That's the other trend that I think you'll see out there, especially if you're looking at Instagram. You'll see things that are sort of very much the opposite of what I'm describing. So there's never only one thing happening at a time.
Okay.
And I think those are the two things that are happening.
So since we have some time while we're waiting for the fennel to braise and get creamy, as you said, what are some challenges that you've faced on a movie set?
Oh my God.
I don't remember hearing something about cobblestones and weather.
Well, okay. You might be thinking about when I did an interview that was about Eat, Pray, Love, which the challenges of working on a movie like Eat, Pray, Love is that we were basically on location in Rome, and that was the challenge. I didn't have like a nice, comfortable soundstage that I was working in my nice, comfortable kitchen. No, I was, you know, basically prepping wherever I could. And sometimes my assistant, who actually lived in Rome, would have to go home and cook something in his home kitchen, because we didn't really have a kitchen. For one big scene, we had a kitchen truck, but that was only like one day. And because Rome, the streets are so narrow, we couldn't have a kitchen truck, which you would normally have on set. Just wasn't room for it. And so it was very fly by the seat of our pants, and we shot mostly in restaurants. So we would somehow we had a little refrigerated truck where we'd keep our food, and then we'd pull up to the restaurant and get into the kitchen and just start cooking. So yeah, that was really challenging. And then sometimes, yes, running around with all of the paparazzi and the people watching and looking for Julia Roberts, and it was just kind of insane. And then running across cobblestone. They're like, oh, it's only 200 meters away. And it's like, I'm American. I don't even know I can't think in meters. So and they're like, oh, it's really close. But it really was like down the street. So one person's close is another person's very far away.
Especially if you're holding food and trying not to.
Oh my God, it was crazy. So yeah, I'd say Eat, Pray, Love. There are basically, it's all about challenges. Every single thing when you're doing a movie is a challenge, and how are you going to kind of get around the challenge for everyone on a movie set? That's what it's all about. In fact, like if you work with people on a movie set, like people say, this is what they say: everything's going to be great. And they say that when they don't think it's actually going to be great. But it's like you have to keep this very positive attitude.
They're acting.
It's like even when especially it's not going to be, you're worried about how it's all going to turn out. Everything's going to be great.
Great.
So do you see what's happening here?
It looks like it's thickening up and creating a really,
isn't that gorgeous?
Sauce. Yeah.
And look how fast that was. Oh my God. And that's what you want. Now that little bit of honey and the butter is what's really helping that sort of caramel to form. And you want it like, you don't want to burn it. This is the point where you have to watch it like a hawk, because it could burn very, very easily. So we're almost done. I'm going to go grab a platter. I'm going to actually turn it off because I think it's done.
So is this another dish? Oh, well. we'll wait for her to come back. Okay. I was wondering if this is another dish that might be able to be served room temperature.
Absolutely. Like I think when we were talking about it, we said, "Oh, it's a salad," and I was like, "Well, it's not really a salad." But I was actually looking for the platter. I don't know where it is. I was looking for the platter that I used for the book, but I don't see it. So those are mostly my prop. Yeah, this would also be great at room temperature. I mean, I love it with the kind of hot cold thing going on, but yeah. So I'm just gonna let me move my.
Are the olives pitted, or do they?
Yeah, these came pitted. So I'm going to show you that in 1 second. I usually get unpitted olives. That's like a food stylist thing because you don't want like this big obvious hole in it. Like they look better if you just kind of tear them out, you know, yourself. But honestly, yesterday I just didn't see any that had pits when I was shopping, so I just bought those.
Is there a trick of unpitting an olive?
Yeah, well, they're so easy to pit when like something like a Kalamata olive is so soft that you can just sort of tear it apart with your fingers in half, or you take the side of your knife and you just press down on it.
Oh, okay.
And then you can just sort of remove the pit. So this platter looks good too. Now I don't want to lose any of this delicious liquid, so I'm going to take my scraper. I used to work with a sous chef that used to go around the kitchen and say, "You left 20 cents in the bowl." But look at all that good stuff if you didn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the honey and all the flavors right there, right?
You want that. You want that. Let me get rid of that.
I have another question here while you finish off the dish. What are some of your favorite recipes that you meal prep, or some type of food that tastes okay after being in the fridge for a few days or close to a week?
Well, again, I have to come back to soups, but also I do eat meat. So I make this like a meat mixture that can be used for turkey burgers or meatballs or, you know, mostly those two things. And I use I keep the meat mixture in there, and then I can form it into whatever I want at the last minute. But, you know, again, I think soups are the best thing to meal prep. I also just make batches of beans, and I make the broth if I make them from dry beans, and or these days shell beans, fresh shell beans from the market. Once you've cooked beans, you have that broth, and all you have to do is saute some onion and carrot and celery, and you already have soup. I mean, I can't say enough good things about soup for meal prep, because then you can put leftovers, or like I said before, dumplings. You can put things in the soup to make it a bigger meal. So even, you know, tofu, or it's great if, you know, and yeah, that's what I mostly do when I don't meal prep the way some people do, like where they set up, you know, individual
meals or entrees. And
I just make batches of things and then I transform them throughout the week. So
you're creating a refrigerator full of mise en place that you can kind of mix and match? Or? Well,
yeah, not really so much mise en place, which would mean just chopped up onions, but I do that too. I sometimes just cook. I'll get one of the giant tubs of spinach. Well, I don't leave that in my refrigerator, taking up all the space. I immediately cook it. And then I've got the wilted spinach, and then I have that ready to put into other meals. And I might roast off a bunch of squash, or I'll always cook more than I need for something so that it can go into the next meal, whether it's roasted cauliflower, roasted squash, anything like that.
That does make it easier.
All right, so now we have the olives, which, as you can see, not only are going to give it flavor, but a beautiful sort of color contrast. And I saved some of the fennel fronds to sprinkle over too. I washed them. You should wash them.
Okay.
Sometimes people think they don't have to wash things, and you should wash most things.
Yeah. And that also adds a brightness to the dish.
Oh yeah, both for the flavor and the color. I mean, look at that. It's so pretty. And then this is the pièce de résistance. You don't have to, but there's this very cool thing called fennel pollen. And I actually have some out on my deck too, because I have fennel plants that have gone to seed. So I could use that. If you are growing fennel, you can just use that. So this is just giving it a little bit of extra fennel flavor.
Oh, exciting.
It's
In
really,
California, a lot of people go and get the wild fennel pollen.
yeah, yeah. So you can harvest the fennel yourself if you're lucky enough to live in California.
Stay away from the freeways, though.
Oh, because they're dirty. So,
Yeah.
you know, that looks almost exactly the same. You see that?
Oh, wow. That's inspirational, because sometimes you wonder if your dish will look as good as the photo that you're trying to replicate.
Right. There's not really any trickery involved. Like the way that I am, the kind of food stylist that I am, it's not really about trickery. It's about showing you how beautiful the food is naturally. So.
Well, you've just shown us how easy it is to create beautiful food, and hopefully we all learn some photography tricks to showcase on our own Instagram accounts. Yeah. We're at about time, so I do want to thank you for spending your morning, afternoon with us and showing us these amazing dishes. When you get a chance, please get Open Kitchen and even go online, because on YouTube, there are a lot of videos with Susan on Food 52 and New York Times. And I do want to do a plug for your cookies, because that was last year, and I believe it's coming back again this year. 12 types of cookies, all of them different and amazing for the holiday season. So do go online and check out what Susan has out there for us.
Thank you, Ida. This has been so much fun.
Thank you very much for joining us. Take care.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye-bye.